My nearly adult female. Parents divorced when I was 6. My dad remarried 3 years later to my stepmom, who has a kid, teen male. My stepbrother's dad is not in the picture. Neither is my mom, so we both live full-time in the same house. I'm pretty close with my paternal grandparents because I spend a whole summer with them and help them around. My stepbrother's always invited, but he never comes. It's not that my grandparents don't love him or accept him, but they're not close. My granddad gave me his old truck for my birthday, and I was over the moon. It's a pretty classic that he owned when he was a teen and took real care of. It doesn't look brand new, but it works as well as when new, and it's super sentimental. I've loved that truck ever since I was a kid, and I'm so happy it's mine. My granddad and I were making plans so I could paint it pink and change the seats, but it turns out that, per my dad's comment, I can't since it's just not my truck, but also my stepbrother's. I said, my granddad gave it to me. It's mine, and I can do whatever I want with it. It's still under my granddad's name, but I pay the insurance and gas. My dad said it wasn't fair because they didn't get him a truck on his birthday, so it's only fair that I have to share. We fought for days, but I was eventually forced to give up the key so he could make a copy. I despise every moment my stepbrother drives my car. I hate my dad's schedule because it favors him, and I hate my stepbrother because he just went with it. To be honest, it never occurred to me to tell my granddad what was going on. This past Friday, he and my grandma came to give me a pink plate frame that he found and offered to change it for me. I said thank you, but that I couldn't, and I just spilled everything. The schedule, the forced sharing, the yelling, the copy of my key, and the fact that I couldn't change the truck to my liking because my stepbrother wasn't going to drive a pink car. Needless to say, my granddad was furious. He went inside and yelled at my dad, demanded my stepbrother's key, and said that if he ever drove that truck again without my permission, he'd call the police and get him arrested. My dad's mad, like really mad. He said it was wrong on so many levels because my stepbrother was innocent and that I made my granddad scold him for nothing. He called me a selfish and entitled brat and threatened to make me pay rent for what I did. My stepbrother called me an idiot and said I could have just asked for the truck. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If they want your stepbrother to have a car, they'll have to buy him one. Your grandfather gave you his old car. It wasn't even you, so no one bought you a car. Your father and stepfather are embarrassed for getting caught stealing from you and your grandfather and getting called on it. They were supposed to be called on it. Is your stepbrother even on the insurance that you're paying? They are wrong on so many levels. I agree. Dad is absolutely bonkers. I'd be furious if I were the grandpa. OP is insured on the truck and pays for that. Grandpa is still on the title though, so he does have some potential liability. Clearly he's willing to live with that for his granddaughter. Without telling him, Dad set him up for significant liability by allowing a teen boy to drive the car. If I were grandpa, this alone would be enough to make me livid. The rest of it would send me over the top. Have the truck painted pink, since your stepbrother's too manly to drive a pink car. It'll make the truck automatically unusable to him. Should have just asked meant nothing because when you just asked not to share your car, you were either scolded or ignored. Oh, and if Dad demands you pay rent, pack a bag and call your grandparents. Don't tell him. Tell him CPS would love to hear about how he's trying to charge his minor child rent for the basic housing he must provide. I think I know what's happening, and it's worse than just not letting you have your own car. Your dad is angry that he doesn't have a bio son. He's angry that his dad gave his truck to you, a girl, when it should have gone to a man like himself / his stepson. Some major toxic masculinity is going on here, and your family needs counseling. I'm starting to understand why your mother divorced your father. It seems as if he doesn't respect women at all. My wife has a weekly book club with her friends, and I'm happy she takes the time to enjoy her hobbies and connect with friends. The issue is that she volunteered to host the club in our home, and I'm not allowed to be there while they're meeting. So while I don't mind busying myself for an hour once in a while, they meet weekly for 3 to 4 hours at a time. She says there's a no man rule because the women share private things, which I understand and respect, but I also don't think it's fair for them to expect me to get kicked out of my own home for most of my weekend. Especially since I work 6 days a week. We both work, but I work more days, and I only have that one Saturday off. I also prefer to spend the extra time playing video games, so it's not like I could take my computer to Starbucks with me. I've offered to put on headphones and stay in the bedroom, but she says the women will still feel my presence. I've asked if the women could take turns hosting, but she says all of the women have reasons why they can't host, including, which I thought was irritating, some of their husbands not wanting to leave their home for so many hours. I've also asked if they could meet at a coffee shop and even offered to help pay to rent a meeting room somewhere, but she said that they felt more comfortable in a home. This has been going on for 2 months now, and last week I told my wife I couldn't keep this up anymore, and she had to find a solution herself, because I've given her so many options already, and gave her the heads up that I wasn't leaving this weekend. I think she thought I was bluffing, but come Saturday I stayed home. Out of respect, I stayed in the bedroom where everyone came over, but they knew I was there, and I could tell the meeting got cut short because of that. My wife and I had a huge row afterward, and here we are now. She's not talking to me, and I'm pretty angry, but I'm not sure who's really in the wrong here. Not the idiot. You are right. It's a bit much to be kicked out of your house every week, and you've offered her compromises, and it's not been well received. That makes your wife the idiot. I reckon you should arrange a boys' night with sports and all, and tell her she needs to leave. Yeah, what on earth is that about? The women will sense the essence of a man in the house? They'll detect an aura of maleness and be put on edge knowing that a gasp man is somewhere in the building? I completely get why in some situations, some women may, due to past trauma, not feel comfortable around a man they don't know, but this isn't one of those situations. This is their friend's husband in his own home, and it's not like he's sitting there in the middle of things. He's off in another room doing his own thing. Something about this whole scenario just doesn't feel right. I can't even put into words, which is so frustrating, but yeah, something is off here. OP's wife is being exceptionally inconsiderate and selfish. She chose the day to accommodate everybody in the book club except her husband, and she's being more considerate to the husbands of her club mates than her own. I have to wonder what this woman is thinking. If my spouse showed more consideration to their club members and their spouses than me, we would have a big problem. I think this is some kind of flex for her. Their husbands won't leave, but I have mine wrapped around my little finger. Plus, it's obvious that they're talking crap about their husbands during this club, maybe even about some indiscretions. Dude, you're at work 6 days, and the only day your wife can host a book club that takes up a third of the day is your day off? My man, your wife does not want you around. This is intentional. I'm male 37, have a daughter, now a young teen, Olivia, from my former relationship. Currently, I'm married to my wife who has a daughter, teen, Brittany. So Brittany is the opposite of Olivia. For example, Brittany's a social kid, and Olivia's an introvert. The list is long, but they're just complete opposites. Olivia's birthday was 2 days ago. She loves chocolate, and I decided this was the flavor I would go with when I contacted the bakery. However, my wife objected since Brittany hates chocolate and suggested we go with vanilla. I said no way because, for one, Olivia hates vanilla, and it's also her birthday, so she gets to have her cake with her favorite flavor. My wife got upset and took it as if I had no regard for Brittany and that we should choose another neutral flavor instead. I shut that down and said no more discussing this because I'd already decided to go with what Olivia wanted. On the birthday day, I was supposed to go get the cake, but I was surprised to see my wife coming home after picking the cake up from the bakery. I looked at it and discovered that it wasn't a chocolate cake, but a vanilla cake with small pieces of chocolate. I got angry thinking they got my order wrong. I was about to contact them, but my wife said that there was no mistake, and she called the bakery the day before and made slight changes to the cake to please both girls. I was stunned. I lost it on her and asked her why the heck she did that. She got defensive saying that birthdays are no excuse to show favoritism and that her daughter is watching and observing how I'm treating both girls. I told her off since I was paying, then called the bakery and explained what had happened. I had the cake returned and replaced with a chocolate cake. Although this one is smaller, it was fine. My wife declined to participate in the celebration. Later, we got into a huge argument where she called me controlling and selfish for returning the cake instead of using this opportunity to teach Olivia to compromise so everyone's happy. So now I'm teaching her to be selfish. I said that my daughter gets to act selfish on her birthday and that she, my wife, was teaching her daughter to be entitled, word for word, and it led to the bigger argument. We're not talking as of now. Am I the idiot for returning the cake and not considering my wife's input? Not the idiot. Your wife is an idiot for going behind your back. The cake was vanilla to make Brittany happy, with tiny bits of chocolate for the birthday girl. Why can't Brittany learn to compromise? She's older, and she should know that she can't get what she wants on a day that's not her birthday. A birthday cake is for the person whose birthday it is. It's not selfish or demeaning to get the person's favorite flavor. For example, your stepdaughter could have had a vanilla cupcake. But OP, do you see the flags? Your wife is projecting onto you because she's the one showing favoritism. You did well in changing the cake, but you have way bigger problems in your home. She did this flagrantly, which tells me she's been messing with your kid for a while. You probably just caught on. Exactly. Keep a very keen eye on both your stepdaughter and most of all your wife. Should she try some of this again, divorce her before she does lasting damage to your child. Bad people are often sneaky. This is just the first incident that you've noticed. You should take your daughter out on a daddy-daughter date so she's out of the house and feels safe, and ask if similar things have happened. So I, female 28, have been dating my boyfriend, 31, for 7 months. His family is of Italian origins, and they take great pride in it. They invited me over to their house several times. Last night, his parents came to the apartment for the first time. They said they were visiting a friend and decided to stop by for dinner. I freaked out when they said dinner because it was late, and I was working and had no time to cook. So I ordered pizza for all of us. The second his parents saw the pizza, they got angry. His dad gave me a nasty stare and then said that I intentionally served them pizza just because they were Italian. In other words, he claimed I was mocking them in their food and assuming that just because they're Italian, that they'd only eat Italian food, which he called racist. I was confused. I said I didn't think it was interpreted that way, but he said, if you have Asian guests over, do you serve them sushi? How would you like it if we only serve you McDonald's and fries every time you visit, since that's what Americans eat? I was stunned by his words. Basically, he was saying that just because they're Italian, I shouldn't assume that they'd like to have pizza, but who doesn't like pizza? He and my boyfriend's mom got up and said that they wanted to leave. My boyfriend tried to get them to stay and take it easy, but they left eventually. He blew up, saying I messed up by serving them pizza and insulting them indirectly. He told me to call and apologize, but I said no, and that I didn't have time to cook anything after they showed up unexpectedly. He got more upset and asked if his parents needed permission to visit him. I backed off, thinking he'd calm down, but he kept saying that I insulted his parents and I needed to apologize. I'm utterly and genuinely confused. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I mean, if your boyfriend was so upset that his parents got pizza, why didn't he cook for them? Tell the boyfriend that he can figure out dinner next time he brings over rude guests. I'm guessing his parents are not the only rude family he has. And they expected OP to cook for them after coming over late and unannounced? I would have sent them packing regardless. I don't tolerate inconsiderate people inconveniencing me at my home. Also, yes, they do need permission to come over spontaneously and uninvited. I get that family likes to just drop by, but you also have to ask permission before showing up. If my mom stops by with zero warning, she gets to wait outside while I decide if I want to let her into my house. I'd guess that they would have been offended and upset no matter what OP did. Cooked an amazing non-Italian meal and rolled out the red carpet for them? She's making us feel like guests in our own son's home, and she thinks she's too good for Italian food. Managed a traditional, delicious Italian meal? So she thinks she's Italian just because she's dating our son. She tried to outdo us with this meal, and she didn't even ask for our input or help. She thinks she knows better than us. She asked them what they'd like for takeout. She made her guests figure out their dinner. What a horrible host. Next time she should just order Olive Garden. They want to be insulted by fake Italian food? Olive Garden is the way to go. Pizza by comparison is tame and hardly even just an Italian thing anymore. Anyway, why is it your responsibility to order dinner? Your boyfriend was there, and they're his parents. He should have been responsible for providing dinner. My mother-in-law has stayed with my husband and me for almost 2 months. It is driving me up the wall. She constantly rearranges the furniture and throws out food she doesn't like. My husband won't make her go home. We're expecting, and he thinks that I'll need the help. I very much may, but I don't want it from her. I have all kinds of hormones, and I want my husband to take care of my needs, but he won't with his mom in the house. She also loves to come into our room at night. She usually knocks, but not always. My husband went out of town for the weekend to his friend's wedding. If I had called, he could have been home in 2 hours, so I'm okay with him going. My mother-in-law chose to come into my room last Saturday night to discuss who knows what. It didn't go well. We just stared at each other. Finally, she went beet red and slammed the door. I called my husband and told him that I wanted her out. She called him and said I'm a maniac. My husband has finally agreed to let me put a lock on the bedroom door. I told him that if she was still here in a week, I would be moving into my grandparents' house until she was gone. I just want my privacy and my husband back. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your mother-in-law is projecting. It sounds like she's the real maniac if she likes barging in on her baby boy during intimate hours. And your husband letting you put a lock on the door? I'd call that a day late and $1 short. But even that is too generous. You have a mother-in-law problem, dear. People get salty about ultimatums, but this was the correct use of one, assuming you will follow through on it. This is a situation that will break your marriage if it goes unchecked. You don't have a mother-in-law problem. You have a husband problem. It is his and your home. If you had a visitor that made him uncomfortable, I'm sure he would expect you to kick them out. It's not about a lock on a door. She clearly doesn't understand that the house is not under her control, and he's not clarified that to her. So make mama's boy make a decision, or you'll live with these visits for the rest of your life. Throwing out food is clearly just showing you who's boss. It's no mistake. Pack up mother-in-law's stuff today and tell her she's leaving. Don't wait for hubby's help. Your house, your rules. Don't be pushed around like this. It should not be your problem if your husband wants to live with his mom. When I, female 26, met my husband's 34 mom, I hoped for a healthy mother figure type relationship. She's okay-ish, but she can be a little controlling. Given that my husband is her only child, she tends to act super protective of him. When I got pregnant, my mother-in-law requested to be the first person to hold my son after he was born. She wanted to be in the delivery room with me, but I refused to let her. Finally, my husband said he'd keep her out of the room under the condition that she be the first person to hold the baby. I didn't agree, but didn't disagree as well, just stayed silent. The baby was born days ago. All my husband was worried about was having his mom be the first to meet the baby, but she was out of town attending a friend's daughter's wedding. He said she wouldn't be back till 2 days later. Mom and sister already came to help, and they held my son while helping me after my husband returned to work. I had no one to help, and they were my go-to. Mother-in-law and my husband knew. They both went off and started throwing a fit, saying that I betrayed her and made a promise, then broke it. My husband tried to get her to calm down after she came home lashing out, but she scolded us both and then walked out. He blew up at me saying I screwed up and violated our agreement. I said that mom and sister were helping me out and held the baby. So what? He got angrier and claimed I had no respect for his mom and her wishes and told me that I hurt her feelings and ruined her grandbaby's birth memory. I couldn't keep arguing. He called me unbelievably selfish and demanded I fix my mistake, but I wasn't sure what he meant by that. Like redo the baby's birth and have his mom be the first to hold him? He didn't like my sarcasm and said that what I did was sneaky and cold-hearted. He said he should have let his mom in the delivery room, otherwise none of this would have happened. They're both still salty about it and are sulking hard. Am I the idiot? He's calling you selfish after you grew and birthed the baby? Also, what kind of psycho request is it from your husband and mother-in-law to be the first to hold your child? Hun, best wishes for a speedy divorce. You are not the idiot. Why do your husband and your mother-in-law seem to think her needs are more important than yours? I've never heard of anything like this before. Also, your mother-in-law goes to a wedding just when her grandchild is born and expects you to keep your family at bay? Ridiculous. Your mother-in-law needs to know that your health and well-being mean that the baby's well cared for. Tell your husband to grow up and see what's important here, you and your baby. Mother-in-law doesn't get a say and does not deserve special privileges just because she says so. OP had a baby for the mother and son but didn't know it. Normally, I would say something deep, meaningful, or reassuring, but I'm speechless on this one. OP, your dope of a husband and his Klingon level 5 mother are the idiots. Set boundaries now. This will only get worse. There's a problem here, and it will escalate with mother-in-law wanting more and more first. It won't be long before those first come at your expense. When you're in the delivery room, you're in charge. Not your husband, not his mother. If it were so important to her, as she claims, she'd have been there, even if she wasn't allowed in the room. If she wasn't even there to be kept out, that agreement you didn't even technically agree to is null and void. She was out of town. Was the baby supposed to be untouched until she came back? Ridiculous. So sorry you're a single mom to 2 babies and have a third in such close orbit. You married a mama's boy. My 53 male, wife 45, and I've been married for 10 years. I have a bio son from my previous marriage, Logan 28, and 3 stepchildren with my wife, Mike teen male, Lisa teen female, and Nina tween female. I haven't seen my son since the global issue started because he got stuck in another country. We text, call, and video call, but it's not the same as having him here. When flights were allowed again, he still couldn't come since he got a fantastic job opportunity and wanted to do his best. It made me sad because I miss my boy so much. However, I understood that life is sometimes hard. I love my stepchildren so much. I call them my children and they call me dad. I'm only calling them stepchildren for the sake of the post. They're amazing kids, and I'm really proud of the lot. My birthdays are magical with them, with lots of fun, games, and food. This year, Logan's coming to the US for a work trip that falls in my birthday week. My birthday's Tuesday, and he's coming Monday to Friday to a city close to where we live. Unfortunately, he's unable to make the drive here and there, so I said I'd be coming to him since his company allows 1 free day per worker during that week, and he asked for Tuesday. This means I won't be able to be here with the rest of my children since I'll have to leave at 5 a.m., and then I'll be back around 10 or 11 p.m. When I told them, they were bummed, and Mike said it was unfair of me to choose my bio kid over them. But as I see it, I have to choose either way. My kids go to school in the morning, so we would celebrate between 2 and 3 p.m. But unfortunately, I can't take them with me, and Logan can't come here. So it's just a day in all these years. I've been unable to see him, and we can still do something together during the weekend. I apologized but said that my decision was my final decision, and that night my wife said I was an idiot and that I was no better than those step-parents who cast their stepchildren aside for the bio kids. She said she knows I've always loved Logan more, which is not true. She tells me going will damage my relationship with my stepkids forever. Not the idiot. She says you're one of those step-parents who cast the stepkids aside? No, she's one of those parents. He's her stepson, just as they are your stepchildren. The fact she doesn't want you to go see him sounds like she's trying to make sure her kids are more important rather than equally important. Don't let her stop you from seeing your boy. And I guarantee you, if you've raised those kids right, they'll understand when you explain it. Yeah, OP, your wife is unreasonable. If my husband hadn't seen his child in 3 years, I'd be pushing him out the door to go and see him. Spend a few days. I don't care if it's your birthday, my birthday. Go enjoy your time with him. I imagine your son would prefer to spend one-on-one time with you. I'm sure a lot has happened he wants to talk to you about without the teens around. The fact that his wife and stepkids take issue with this is blowing my mind. I went back to check the kids' ages and said, OMG, they're plenty old enough to understand the situation. If they were little kids or toddlers, I'd get them feeling that way. But they aren't. So anyway, OP chooses them every day by being there with them. Your wife in particular is being malicious. It sounds like she's trying to permanently edge Logan out of your life in favor of your stepkids. Go see your boy. She'll get on board or she won't. But isn't your son worth a day trip to see after 3 years? And if she gives you grief, get her to go to marriage counseling. She really needs to get over her insecurities and controlling attitude. Disagree. You are the idiot. You're treating those kids as not your children and they know it. Your son is an adult who's unable to drive here and there. Stop bending over backward for your bio son and recognize that your stepkids want to be present in your life and your birthday celebration. My nephew is a rainbow baby. My sister had a lot of trouble conceiving, and it was kind of a miracle. She was 42 when she finally managed to give birth. She was on bed rest for the last 3 months of her pregnancy. My nephew is now a young child, and while I love him, he's a monster. He throws tantrums when things don't go his way. He screams if he loses playing a game. He refuses to understand why he can't ride my 7-year-old Saint Bernard, and he thinks any food is his. My husband is diabetic, and he loves cookies. I found a bakery that makes amazing sugar-free cookies, but they're expensive. So I budget for them because my husband deserves his treats when he gets home from work. My sister was visiting, and my nephew ran around like a squirrel. He tripped and started crying, so my sister picked him up. He saw the cookie container on the counter and started asking for some. I said no, that they were special cookies for his uncle. I offered him a regular cookie or some fruit, but he got all upset that he was being denied. My sister asked if he could please have a cookie. I relented and gave him one. He took a bite, said it was yucky, and threw it on the ground. I was a little upset. A little while later, he came back and asked for another cookie. I said no. My sister said to just give him one. I told her no. He wasted the last one. He started screaming that he wanted a cookie. I stood my ground and he eventually went away. The next time he came, he didn't ask. He just went for the container. I grabbed the spray bottle I used to keep the cat off the counter. I gave him a couple of squirts and said, no. He got startled and ran away. My sister said her son isn't an animal to be reprimanded with water. The next time he entered the kitchen, I put my hand on the spray bottle. He didn't even look at the counter, and he went away. My sister called my parents to tell on me for treating her kid like that. They're mad at me for not giving in to the poor baby. If your sister wants to let him act like a wild thing, he will get trained like a wild thing. I totally get it. So let's break this down before some weirdo comes in and tries to make you feel guilty. Your husband has specific needs that can get pricey. As a person with dietary limitations and who lives with others who do as well, I know how unfair the diabetes/celiac tax is on a budget-strained house. This kid will get hit so hard by the world, and I legitimately bet this is the first time anyone said this. So I have 2 things for you. A golden, not the idiot. Your method of enforcing boundaries may be a little unorthodox, but it was effective and hilarious. It's not the kid's fault, it's the mother's. So when she fails to discipline him, grab the spray bottle and squirt her until she controls her kid. If your sister can't get her kid to understand that your house has rules for a reason and that you're unable to afford financially or from a stress perspective her excessive spoiling of her child, simply ban them from coming over. You have every right to protect your home, your sanity, your cookies, and quite frankly, I hope it makes her angry if you do it, so she's forced to realize that the way she's raising or not raising her child harms others. I, 22 male, lived in Tokyo for the first 10 years of my life. My parents aren't from there. My dad is American and my mom is Irish, but I was born there. I didn't go to an international school. I speak Japanese along with English. When I was 10, we moved to the US. I liked it. Then when I was 16, we moved to Ireland, and we've been here ever since. Now that the backstory's out of the way, I'll be quick. Recently, I started seeing this girl, 22. We've made it official. She's met my family, and I've met her family. Except for one person, her brother, 19, until 3 days ago. I was at her place and her brother came over to drop something off for their parents, and I met him. Instantly, he says, "I heard you lived in Japan for a while. That's so cool. I've wanted to live there forever. I speak Japanese." I instantly got really excited. I mean, the only other people I've known outside of Japan that can speak the language are my parents and this one guy in the US. So I started speaking to him in it, just asking him what interests him about the country, and he gets awkward, and then he leaves. He says I embarrassed him, and that he won't speak to me unless I apologize to him. My girlfriend and her parents don't think I did anything wrong, but I don't know. I feel really bad about it. Maybe I should have actually made sure he spoke the language, but I was just so excited. But that's why I'm here. I want an outside person's view. I've felt bad for 3 days, so I want to ask, am I the idiot? Ouch, the embarrassment is real. Not the idiot OP. Sorry you have to apologize to him for something he did? Have you thought of apologizing in Japanese? I don't mean sorry. I mean a good 5-minute heartfelt apology. Indeed, the full proper Japanese public self-humiliation. The dude should appreciate that. After all, as it's part of the culture and he wants to live there, so he really should understand it, as if he moves there and makes a mistake at work, he'll be expected to do it. LOL, he embarrassed himself. He doesn't speak Japanese. He just watches anime. You shouldn't have to double check if he's telling the truth. He probably thinks you were testing him and his ego got hurt. Since you actually care and don't want any animosity between you and her brother, you could offer an apology for getting too excited to speak Japanese to someone other than your family, even though it doesn't sound like you did. Then just remember he's a sensitive drama queen for future interactions. I, 22 male, was adopted when I was around 2 years old. Not that I can actually remember, but that's what my parents say. By my darling mama, 52, and my beloved papa, 52. They had 2 kids before me and one after me, but never treated me any differently. My parents are now divorced, but I still have a great relationship with them both. All I know from my past is a letter my bio dad wrote for me. He was 15 at the time I was born, and in the letter, he said that it hurt him to give me up, and he promised to find me. I was handed this letter when I turned 12, and because of my parents' love and care, I never felt like looking for my bio parents. In May of this year, my papa called me. I don't live with any of my parents anymore, saying that my bio dad reached out to him to meet me. He claimed to be dying to meet me. Papa was requesting my permission to let him know my address or set up a meeting at a cafe or something. I didn't accede at first, but my papa encouraged me to do it, so I did. To my surprise, he was waiting for me with a woman who claimed to be my bio mom. They hugged and kissed me and we sat down to talk. They explained the circumstances that made them give me up. Basically, they were kids without their parents' support. They told me a little bit about their lives now. So basically, they're not together. They remarried. My bio dad married a man, and they have 2 daughters together. My bio mom married her husband and had a boy. So we talked about our lives the whole afternoon. They seemed to be nice people in their late 30s, and not the monsters I thought they were. Anyway, I thought that'd be the first and last time we saw each other. I was taking it as closure. Like 2 weeks later, my bio dad sent me a text saying that he couldn't sleep since he met me and was desperate to meet me again and introduce me to my family, his husband and kids. Still, I let him know it was closure to me and not the opening of a new relationship, since I already have my family and he has his family. He seemed sad but accepted my wish for a while. My bio mom did something similar too, expressing her wish that I'd meet her husband and son. They stopped trying to meet again for a while, but started again in August. They started sending me texts about how much they loved me and wanted to meet again, and they also started sending gifts to my papa's house. They don't know where I live. My dad encourages me to give them a chance and meet their families, but I know my mom isn't comfortable with that idea, and I don't want her to feel betrayed by me. I decided I had enough, so I sent them a text requesting them to stop making things up and just give up on me because I already have 2 parents, and they should return to their loved and wanted families, and I just blocked them. My dad and friends say that I was too rude and I should apologize, but my mom thinks it was okay since they chose to disrespect my boundaries. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. I don't think they're bad people for giving you up, especially since they admitted that they couldn't have given you a good life. However, that doesn't mean that you owe them anything either. If you don't want a relationship with them, that's your right. They aren't entitled to you just because they made you. With that being said, you told them each how you felt nicely once, so you were within your right to be more aggressive about it the second time. Agree. This isn't something that can be forced on you. It seems that they've romanticized the idea of you for 22 years. Hopefully, they will stop harassing you now and get therapy to deal with the loss that they're both grieving. You have to do what feels right for you. There is no right or wrong with this. Your bio family gave you up. When they did that, they gave away any rights they had, including having a relationship with you. The cold fact is that they aren't your family. You have a family. You are the idiot, just for how you phrased that last message. You had one meeting with them, and you left it on a high note. Unfortunately, they perhaps naively believed that afterward, you just needed to be convinced that they were really serious about wanting to have a relationship with you. You could have just reiterated that while you understand their feelings, you're really not looking for a relationship. Instead of seemingly resentful, go back to the family and people who actually love you. It's so cold.